Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. It is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm sure Kimale here in Abuja. We're still keeping track of what is happening in Kano in respect of the Kano Emirate leadership tussle. And it's been a day that we're seeing bonfires on the street of the ancient city of Kano and protesters bearing placards and chanting in agitation over the reinstatement of Muhammadu Sanusi II as the Emir of Kano. In Gaya and Nasarawa, where the protests took place, residents poured into the street to register their grievances over Sanusi's reinstatement. Residents of Gaya protested against the dissolution of the Gaya Emirate by the state government. And Gaya Emirate is among the Emirate councils recently dissolved by the Kano state government after the Kano Emirates Council Law of 2019 was amended. The new law enacted by the House of Assembly, indeed the law that former Governor Abdullah Gandhi used in 2020 to create the additional emirate and dethrone the Sanusi II as the 14th Emir of Kano. For the last few days now, the Ado Bayero, the 15th Emir, had reappeared and made appearance at the palace in Kano, which brought the tussle to a stalemate, with Sanusi Muhammadu II also present at the palace. And of course, the National Security Advisor had been responding to the Deputy Governor of Kano State, whom, according to him, has alluded to the fact that he was the one who aided the re-entrance of Ado Bayero, the emir, into Kano City, which the NSA had since refuted and asked him to apologize in national dailies or expect him to drag him to court. So we've been seeing a situation where the governor, Abba Yusuf, had asked for the arrest of Emir Ado Bayero. It's been a stalemate since the emergence of that court order asking the governor and the government of Kano State to stop the reinstatement process of Sanusi Muhammadu II. Of course, we're hearing from Emir Sanusi Muhammadu II, and he's been speaking about the situation. Of course, appear that he's also refuting some of the claims that the federal government has a hand in the return of Emir Ado Bayero. Take a listen to him.
Improve on my previous tenure. We all learn from our mistakes. We all remember what we did well and what we did not do so well. And it is our responsibility to improve on what we did well and to avoid those things that we did not do so well. Life is a continuous learning process. I've enjoyed the break of the 4 years. I've been grateful to God for the time spent, and I thank the people of Kano for their love. I thank them for their affection. I thank all the scholars, the business community, and the political class for the support they've given me.
All right. That's a situation which has become so tensed, and the fear that Kano might erupt into some kind of tension is now being established as we see those bonfires and protests on the street of Kano. Hopefully, some of this situation will be doused in the coming days. Now, let me take you to the streets of Lagos, where President Bola Tinubu has made appearance and commissioning projects, and of course, flagging some others off. Today is officially flagged off the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, where we've seen governors, ministers, and eminent Nigerians appearing at that flag off. Today, the president is very certain about the impact of this project to Nigerians. Of course, the president also inaugurated the newly reconstructed Apapa Oworo-Shoki Ojota Expressway in Lagos. The presidency had earlier released a statement indicating what the president would be doing in the coming days. From Sunday to Tuesday, Wednesday, up until when it comes to Abuja and some of the projects that he will be commissioning and others flagging off within the marking the 1 year in office of the president. Let me take you to Lagos, where the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, has been explaining the intention of the government on the projects, especially the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway.
In 6-10 lanes, where we have a lot of infrastructure, where we have urban development, we are doing 10 lanes. And the road is done with 11 inches concrete pavement using Y20 reinforcement. The project is procured and is to be completed in sections. First section, we've done over 1.3 kilometers completed, and that's what we came in through. And the second section has been awarded, which is going to stop at the border between Ogun and Ondo, which means that by the time we do the second section, the entire Lagos and Ogun be completed. And like I said before, Mr. President had directed that section 3 and 4 be started at Cross River and Akwa Ibom, and design is completed, and very soon we will start procurement.
That was the Minister of Works. The president also spoke at that event after cutting the tape and flagging off officially. The construction had since started, but this was an official flag off in President Tinubu's own backyard in his own state, Lagos. So take a listen to what he said earlier today.
We will do this road. We are determined to do it. The way we are going, we have a road that we have to leave all of us here present. That is how to build the future. The project is just more than a mere road. It's a symbol of hope, unity, and prosperity. It will connect communities, bring prosperity to people, create opportunity for millions. Where at it? Looking to the right side of the road, you have opportunities. Hold on to the left side of it, you have prosperity. For our nation to excel, we just have to be bold and courageous in our endeavors.
All right, that was President Bola Tinubu earlier today in Lagos, flagging off the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. President Bola Tinubu, February last year, won the election and declared winner in February after polling 8.7 million votes to defeat his closest rival, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, who polled 6.9 million votes. It was an election a lot of people said was keenly contested, considering how the major candidates shared the votes. But beyond all of that, it was a candidate, Bola Tinubu, who went to town and told Nigerians that he is capable of leading this country. He put forward a campaign of a renewed hope agenda. And he didn't renege on that same word or that same catchphrase or campaign promise of renewed hope. And that was what he stood on when he took oath of office on the 29th of May 2023. It's almost a year now since President Bola Tinubu took to the podium and took oath of office and was sworn in as Nigeria's president. On that day, he shocked the world and saying the word subsidy must go. That a lot of experts have said had actually caused some kind of jitter to every aspect of the economy, and a lot of people were wondering how this will impact on the lives of the average citizen. Tonight, we'll be dissecting some of what President Bola Tinubu said, what he has done. Is it good to judge him by what you see today, or is it fair to judge him by what he's promised and what he has delivered? Is 1 year a good way to judge a president based on what he said? But the president has said, look, hold me accountable, hold me responsible. I asked for the job, blame me for whatever happens. Can we tonight sit at a table as a people of this country and hold President Tinubu accountable for what has happened in the country in the last 1 year? If that is the case, let's begin the conversation. Let me remind you what happened on the 29th of May, 2023, when the president made an audacious statement about security and how he hopes to tackle it. And that will help us to begin our conversation. Everyone, let me remind you, refresh your memory about what happened a year ago. And this was President Tinubu's statement on security.
Security shall be top priority of our administration, because neither prosperity nor justice can prevail amid insecurity and violence. To effectively tackle this, we shall reform both our security doctrine and its architecture. We shall invest more in our security personnel, and it means more than an increase in number. We shall provide better training, equipment, pay, and power.
So I'm beginning of refreshing your memory, beginning with the issue of security, because they say that the fundamental business and role of any government is to secure the lives and property of its people. Let me remind you of one thing that you perhaps will never forget, and that is subsidy is gone. And this is President Tinubu saying that.
The budget that I've glimpsed before I assumed office, and what I've heard, is that no provision is there for fuel subsidy. The fuel subsidy is gone. Subsidy can no longer justify an ever increasing cost in the wake of dry resources. We shall instead channel whatever to fund to better investment.
Do not get to the orgasmic level of imagining that I've refreshed your memory just enough. I want to get to the point that our conversation will have a good basis for us to understand where we were, what the president said, and where we are at the moment. What about taxation? Where the president promised about issue of taxation. Is he living to the expectation or the promise that he has made? This is the president talking about taxation.
I have a message for our investors, local and foreign. Our government shall review all the complaints about multiple taxation. and review various anti-investment inhibitions.
Should I go on or refresh your memory one more time? Oh, let me remind you of what he said about the issue of electricity, power. That is important, isn't it? He said things about the issue of the exchange rate. If I go there, that will take us a long time on this program. But let me allow you to listen to the president on the issue of power. What did he promise? Listen to him.
The electricity will become more accessible and affordable to businesses and homes alike. Power generation should nearly double, and transmission and distribution network must improve significantly. We will encourage various state governments to continue to participate in this effort.
The president said quite a lot of things, but don't forget, hold on to two key words in the promise of President Tinubu on the issue of electricity. It says affordability and accessibility. I never forgot that. And that's going to be important. Let me get my guests tonight on the program. Professor Udenza. He is a founding national secretary of the Alliance for Democracy. So he knows the man we're talking about and the capacity, of course, he can dissect some of the issues also for us. He's a professor of literary and theory and cultural studies. Professor Udenza, of course, is profile precedes him. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure, Sean.
It's good to see you.
Quite an age.
Yeah, it's been an age.
Yes, it's my pleasure to be here tonight.
Let's put our fork into this meal anyways, and let's get started. 1 year ago, when you heard the president, and I dare say someone you know, you were in the AD those days, isn't it?
I was a founding secretary of the
You're a founding secretary. So you have an understanding of Bola Tinubu. He was a governor when you were national secretary.
Sure.
So you know him. So you have an understanding.
I do.
Absolutely. So let's get started. When you heard him 1 year ago and you see what is happening now, just give me a summary, a holistic summary of governance under Bola Tinubu in 1 year.
Now, Sean, let me proceed this way. When he invited me to this program, I took some sort of leap of faith on what this conversation is going to be about and what toga I will wear. As a founding national secretary of Alliance for Democracy in 1998, the toga I'm going to wear is the toga of a patriot and a nationalist. My conversation with you is more or less it's like a meditation on the state of the nation and the state of our democracy for 25 years, quarter of a century, even though the backdrop is a 1 year presidency. Tinubu. She would have asked me, what did President Muhammad Buhari say when he was inaugurated years ago? What happened a year after that inauguration? What did he promise the country the day he was sworn in for the second and final presidential term? What happened the year after? What did President Jonathan promise the country when he was sworn in the first time? What did Obasanjo Yar'Adua promise the nation? The list is endless. After Bola Tinubu's 1 year, there will be another inauguration, 2027. It could be Bola Tinubu, another person. What will the person promise? What will the result be a year later? 2031, or Buhari, or Jonathan, with their names. In 1989, Obasanjo talked about having a single state, a single party in the Nigerian state. That if he had advantage post-1979, he will not prescribe a multi-party system. The overhyping of contestation of power across party divide is part of the challenge this country has. Liberal democracy has lost its historical promise in Africa. We don't seem to understand. I will discuss with you today every bit of Bola Tinubu's promise or pledge and what happened 1 year. I'm going to do that with you.
So will you have preferred a rigidity of the kind of system, the communist and the orientation of the Chinese, the Russian tendency? Is that what you have
It is
preferred?
not rigidity. What Obasanjo, for example, talked about, what he's talking about now, rethinking liberal democracy in Africa, the invasion of liberal democratic principles and values, has it done us more harm or good? Why are we, Shegu, you and I, 25 years, with how many presidencies? Obasanjo himself, Yaradua, Jonathan, Buhari, and Bola Tinubu, and we are discussing the barest minimum condition for state survival. In 25 years, quarter of a century, something must be wrong, not even with the electoral system, with the entire systemic approach to governance and democracy. Take a pause at Bola Tinubu, what he did, what he won. I know this thing will come up. In 1979, Shagari won election with 33% of the vote. He knew he hasn't got a mandate, no legislative ability to govern. He had what? A pact with MPP. He formulated a partnership to govern, the barest minimum condition to govern. 83, he had 47. He felt strong enough to do it alone. 93, Abiola had 58%. He didn't live to see his presidency in fruition. 99, Obasanjo had 62% of the vote. How many voters turned out? 52%. 2003, Obasanjo had 61% of the vote. 69% voter turnout. 2007, Yaradua, 69% of the vote. It can move on and on to Bola Tinubu 2023. 220 or 30 million Nigerians. 93 million registered voters or thereabout. What was the turnout? 26% of 93 million.
Abysmal.
What did he score? 36.6% of the vote. 36% not of 230 million, of 36% of 26% of 93 million. There is no mandate. In that sense, with all the disputes about the election rested, I have no problem with it. He's rested. Supreme Court has spoken. He is the president. But this president has only 36% of the vote. In mathematical terms, a failure. In that sense, what do you do? What Obasanjo did in 1999, even with 50-something% of the vote. The country was coming from deep crisis. The nation had virtually collapsed because of the contestation between Abiola and Abacha. We have become a pariah state. I can do it alone, but I will not do it alone. He created the Office of Inter-Party as a clearinghouse for party disputes. And he appointed the chairman of APP, Mahmoud Waziri, as the first advisor, almost to the cabinet rank position. He now brought Uncle Bola Ige of AD, my party, SK Babalola, and ultimately later, Zife, just of blessed memory, including the daughter of the very leader then, Abraham Adesanya, Dugbe, into his cabinet, brought in charter of APP to build some sort of cohesive government of national unity, to build first a lead consensus as a means of developing national consensus.
Can we have a government
That is where
of
we
national...
should be beginning now, that you have 36% of 93 million.
So there is no national acceptance.
That's the point. It's not about electricity.
There's
it's not
8
about
million
road.
people who voted President Bola Tinubu.
It does not reflect. It's not his problem.
Isn't that a failure of the Nigerian people who sit at home, who sit back and never...
It is not their failure. It is the failure of the way the Constitution is drafted. If 200,000 people were to participate in presidential election and the winner is declared, he'll be running around the country, implementing policies.
There are Federal House of Reps members that were voted into office with less than 5,000 votes.
And he's there, making law for the nation, on behalf of his constituency, primarily, and on behalf of the nation.
I don't know if you
did
you see a video of someone who was describing a school under a thatch roof?
I saw that. It's amazing.
It's the most disgusting.
It's absurd and amazing.
It's something that the nation has to sit down and we start to think about where we are as a people. This is disgusting with the kind of money that we have.
If we glean now about Bola Tinubu, organic problems are there. They're natural. It's part of the cause and effect relationship in the system. It's dialectical in nature. You can sort them out. But they're constructed problems, mostly by the elite. So with all the beautiful things you have on the economic front and the political front and security front, without the buy-in of the totality of the elite, you will never solve those problems. They will not exacerbate it from the behind, from the back. So whatever you have in terms of how do you retool the economy, retool the financial system, retool the monetary policy, get the naira to stabilize, it will be destroyed because people feel alienated. The first step for this government to do is not late, in 1 year scorecard. Get back the Office of Inter-Party Relations and a piece of what they call civil society relations. If you have an office where civil society elements, go there to knock on the door of somebody with the ear of the president. These are the problems we have. These are the issues we have at the civic level over issue of media rights, journalists being arrested, constitutional rights, protection of human dignity. They need a party is where all the political parties, including opposition parties, come to clear their problems. And it gets to the ear of those in power. It reduces tension. Why have you asked yourself under 80s of Buhari? I've never seen inside the villa leaders of interfaith, regional organizations, nationality groups, youth coming there to converse with the president on live TV, covered by people like you. It goes a long way to douse tension, to reduce that sense of explosion, that sense of alienation. So what this government should be thinking now is that I had, as a president, 36% of the vote, of only 26% of 93 million.
Yeah, I mean,
so I may need now to
yeah.
say, Atiku Abubakar lives somewhere in Abuja. I don't need, because I know him. I don't need him to like me because of I'm the president. He better be happy. I knock on his door. I know you're in there. Come out. We must talk. Peter B, what is he in Abuja or Onitsha? Fly there.
Even for the photo ops value of it, if followers of this person see the president meeting with Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar...
He must reach out to them. It's a duty as a president. I don't believe those who say that politics is over with governance when you have elections settled. Yes, elections are over. Politics is a daily exercise of beingness. The essence of this conversation is political. The ideas we're sharing are political. Karl Marx said, the history of every hitherto existing society is a history of class struggle, which are primarily economic. But every class struggle is political struggle.
So you think that if Bola Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, and Peter Obi sit in the same room, they come out of that room, it will go a long way. It
doesn't reduce your power as the president. It enhances it.
Let's take a breather on that, Prof. We'll go on a short break. But when we come back, all of what we're talking about is the essence is if governance is right, the lives of the people are better for it. If the president does well, we as a people will be better for it. And so let's have this conversation. But this is going to be after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much. Professor Udenta, a founding national secretary of the Alliance for Democracy, has been speaking with me right here in our studio. We were talking more. Don't forget that May 29 is also significantly the day we began the Fourth Republic. So now talking about governance, talking about the president 1 year in office, everything just makes a lot of sense, isn't it? And I mean, we're talking off the cameras about that school and that video. And as much as we're able to verify the authenticity and the veracity of that video that's gone viral now, I would love to be able to have a conversation with those that are responsible. Absolutely. Because there are a lot of the times people put their eyes on the federal government. But some of these facilities and infrastructures are supposed to be done by the state and local council. And I saw the suit or the legal action by the Attorney General of the Federation, where he has led the federal government to institute a legal action against the governors of the 36 states of the Federation at the Supreme Court over alleged misconduct in the administration of local government areas. And it boils down to one thing: independence of the third tier and the closer tier of government to the Nigerian people.
Now, I watched that video and I shuddered. Like you said, it's not been properly verified. I have not verified it. I don't even have the technical ability or the means and reach your institution has to do the verification. But please, I urge you and your team to do that exercise, so Nigerians will get from such, an authentic and highly appreciated platform like yours to give more bite and more visibility to what is a solid state of the nation, not just of that local government or that rural community. It's a state of the nation.
It happens almost every state of the federation where you find schools, hospitals.
And if you add that to the suit, by the Attorney General, I read that suit line by line, almost all the issues he raised before the Supreme Court in an originating summon. And I smiled, briefly. Let's be honest about it. And I speak with a sense of responsibility, as I have many governors who are my friends. Power has been medievalized at the subnational level in many regards. The medievalization of power by governance is a testament to the chaotic and sometimes dysfunctional nature of our democracy. In spite of the so-called federal behemoth of Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Jonathan, Buhari, and now Bola Tinubu, you have possibly sometimes a lively National Assembly that could put his feet down and said, enough of the excesses of the executive branch or executive rascality. It happened with the 8th Senate under Bukola Saraki. There was actually the moment in which democracy developed substantially that the National Assembly could put his feet down and said, we are partners with you, but this is how far we can go in supporting what we believe is unconstitutional. Don't forget, too, that the entire diplomatic missions are here in Abuja watching the president and his team. The powerful media organizations like yours and others are here. This constrains the power of the presidency. At the subnational level, nobody watches the governors.
How they look at
the governors, of course, appointed the local councils and the state assembly in many regards. In fact, one is actually a historic first. River State, I don't know whether that's still an assembly, is giving orders to the governor. It's almost an abnormality. Some faction there that say people say are not supposed to even be there. But with that kind of exception, the governors actually appoint their people as speakers, appoint their people as majority leaders, they select who become the local government chairman, they dissolve the councils at will and so on. So yes, to an extent, the suit by the Attorney General could deepen democracy of a sort. But the governors on their own, say, look, the third tier is not fully developed as a tier. The Supreme Court, of course, I'm not a lawyer, we look into this one and say, is it fully a tier or is it a dependent tier, serviced by the state government, organized by them, superintended by the state government? That is why they have the so-called joint account, the State and Local Government Service Commission, etc., operated at the subnational level, managing the local government affairs. These are the issues that may be constitutional in nature. But the point I'm making is that power somehow has been over-concentrated in the hands of the governors, even beyond that of the president. Because the president can be under checks and balances by the media, by international community, by public opinion, by civic elements. At the state level, sometimes these things are absent.
The executive order 10 under President Buhari, one thought that would have given more bite and given teeth to the activities and the powers of the local government, where we see the subversion of the activities. If you look into the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is stated the roles and responsibility of the local government, sanitary, some basic health issues. And growing up, I remember some of the roles that local councils were taking up. But it looks like they've gone into total oblivion. They are elected into office. In some states, they've not even held local government council election in years.
Yes, it is. Now, let me put it this way. And this is not a Nigerian problem. A constitution as powerful as it is a guide. Sorry to say in a very powerful program like this. Ojo Madekwa, blessed memory, as Obasanjo's special advisor on legal affairs, was on air in one of the major studios and said, I don't know whether I will be sacked by my boss. But let me put it this way. No president can afford to exercise over 30% of the powers allocated to him in the Constitution, or he becomes a monster. The Constitution is actually a document we put out there, but in operating the Constitution, in practicalizing it at the level of praxis, it goes shit. In America, the theory of forbearance, that means we understand what the Constitution says. On the one hand, we know the practice and the norms and traditions over the centuries. These things are the things we do outside the Constitution. That's why it's for constitutional requirements. Even this matter in the court, you'll be surprised that tomorrow that matter could be withdrawn. Because the governors have been biting back at the president to say, okay, you're taking us to court over this matter. We have one or two things we can do to pull you. And then when we pull you, we can create some distance, some sense of alienation between us and the center. What happens? You go and use alternative dispute resolution mechanisms to sort out some of this mess. It's part of the express provision of the Constitution.
But Prof, it comes a time that those who believe, and I'm a very strong believer on the fact that we do not need 100 people to change Nigeria. We do not even need 2 people to change Nigeria. One person can lead that change that we have wished and prayed for in this country.
The problem,
could this be President Tinubu?
The problem is that the capacity to effect true and lasting change is beyond the potential of an individual. It's systemic in nature. Let me tell you.
But the most revolution that we've seen around the globe, mention all the revolutions, the most changes that we have seen, practical, radical changes that we have seen, has been led by one person who saw the vision.
Not one single man will lead the revolution.
But when you have a vision as a leader, can't you lead?
You can have a vision, but you're constrained by the institutions, the structures and the practices built within the system, the social formation. Politics, like I said to you earlier at the beginning here, may be the effect of economic causes, or politics is the cause of economic effects. You see it as a president and you take a decision. That decision impacts on somebody in Sokoto, maybe the traditional institution, there's somebody in Onitsha, somebody in Yoruba land, somebody in the Middle Belt. Resistance will come from different angles. So what do? You negotiate every single time on where do I sign this project? Who do I appoint there? What do I do with the economy? How do I manage the monetary system? Everything is negotiation. That is why political economy is very important.
But Prof,
and when you do that...
Let us in. Does this government look in the last 1 year? Because if you are on a path, you could actually be in the path to the right or to the wrong place.
Let me put it this way. If a nation is in search of a theme, then the government is in search of a mission. This Bola Tinubu government. This nation is in search of a theme. A theme is like a center in the ontology of a political system. This is what I'm saying. What is the center of this ontology? It's not existing for now. Where are we searching? For nationness, and national belonging. It's lacking. Where does history take us? We don't know. The presidential system is a road to nowhere. So this...
What should we be having?
Now,
what is the right...
In a sense, when you have these omissions and gaps and lacunas, and the president comes in to thunder powerful policy missions with audacity and courage, people put their hands on the jaw and watch him. And they see unravel before their eyes the promises and potentials of that presidency. That's what happened in the past 1 year. When he said the fuel subsidy is gone with audacious hope, the idea is that everything will click in that direction. The system will move. Labor will move. Civic groups will move. National groups will move. Entrepreneurs will move. They can move in that direction because the impact will be instantaneous. What do you have in terms of policy formulations at the primary level of policy in terms of what do I do to cushion it? What do I do at the midterm? What do I do in the long run? Once they're lacking, there is no way you can realize.
But does the president look like someone who has the audacity?
Let me put it this way. Whatever you say about this president, in some regards, you can say, okay, is the audaciousness, the audacity misplaced or just hopeful wish? But the fact of saying it is gone. And when it took every other president years and years of agonizing and said, let this sleeping dog lie. And he said, it is gone. The mistake is not in that audacious comment and the consequences, economically speaking, socially speaking, thereof, including national stability and social security of the people. The problem is they didn't rally the nation round quickly, principally labor and civic groups, and said, this is what I've done. So actually,
on that front, there is
a massive gap because for 1 year now, that contestation persists. That's why the fuel, that's why the negotiation on the wage, living wage, becoming problematic.
It has a dovetailing effect on every aspect of life. Economy.
Absolutely. And it moved on quickly to say, we have to float the naira. Maybe the mindset of those who are around the president, the narrow group, because as I said, having the weakness of the system as it is, having the exhaustion, the promises of the liberal democracy, and having equally the lack of in the breath in the so-called victory of 2023, the effects could have been to take this kind of momentous decision will require the input of everybody, including my political enemies. This is what I'm going to do for the good of the nation. I want you, the leadership of a PDP, to give me your own views, your own ideas. It's not a parliamentary system, it's a presidential system. That means we can work hand together and can still quarter the level of policy disputes. Obi and the Labour Party, an insurgent group that took the nation by storm. What do you have to say on this? Let it be on them that you want their support and they don't want to give it to you. Labour, sorry I did not speak to you, but I wanted the nation to hear my voice as a president. I want you on board now. Let us sit down and work this matter out.
Can the president reflect that in his
May
29 speech?
Of course he should.
Will you change things?
Of course he should.
I mean, do you see a gap in the communication strategy of this government? I mean, they are talking, but are they communicating? They have strategic communication ideas.
I can,
you see,
as a patriot, like I said, as a patriot, we watch our children. Our children is this democracy growing, even when the behavior is errant. And sometimes they are trumped behavior of children. What do? You keep loving them. So we have to keep loving this democracy, which we incarnated in 1999. To that degree, I can say, presidential communication strategy works well when there is a pushback and the president responds with his team. Look at the list for the governing council of the universities, etc. He put it out there. gave a time and a date for this.
Levy.
He said, look, no.
That too.
We have to put this in back and again renegotiate with all the constituencies and all the critical stakeholders there. Put it back. That is almost like a first in Nigeria. Take again, not only that, some appointments made, including ministerial. Somehow or the other, I made a mistake here, I didn't work out well, put it back, and then replace. That level of communication is very important and is working well. The other one that is overbearing, tendentious, and outlandishly, maybe ideological, ideology inflamed comments by certain presidential spokesperson. The other one is, again, when you have the muddled presidential messaging. It weakens the power of the president, it reduces the impact of the presidency, it creates dysfunction. That's the way patriots have to present the picture. But the most important thing for me is, what do we do with this inheritance? What do we do with an Afro-centered democratic practice our scholars can begin to dig out? What do we do with the liberal democrats that seem to have run its muffled historical course?
Let me pause you for a moment, Prof. We'll go on another break, but when we come back, I'll get your closing remark on the way forward for our country, especially under this president. I mean, it's a 1 year, 3 more years to go. 1 year out of those 3 years is going to be majorly politics, but he has 2 years substantially to be able to make a drastic and a fundamental change. How will he achieve that? You'll be giving us your thoughts on that when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much. Now, our closing moment with Professor Udenta. Prof, where do we go from here? If this government or this president must effect a landmark achievement and leave a legacy for Nigeria, considering what he has done in 1 year, what should he be focusing on going forward?
He should seek help.
He needs help?
He needs a lot of help. There's nothing shameful about seeking for help. The country is in trouble. The nation is in distress. That means his presidency is in trouble. So he needs help. The first help will come from his political enemies, or opponents, not enemies. He knows Atiku Abubakar very well. And I do know they know themselves.
What would Atiku Abubakar do for him?
He say, what is beyond what he will do for him? He has a large constituency too. Those who are bitter, who are angry, they need to see him calm. So when he talked to people like that and said, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business guy, you understand the system like I do. We're friends. It's part of the disconnect.
Even with the ideological differences.
It's about the country. You're patriots. Unless you're not a patriot anymore. Both of them should be patriots. So talk to Atiku. Talk to P2B. He's come with a new energy. He's come with a new mindset. And let me put this to you clearly on this platform. P2B is eminently qualified and fit to be president. Not today, not only today, in the time to come, 2027, 2031. Nobody anywhere in the country will say he's not fit to be president. He's fit to be president. The president should seek him and say, you've come from nowhere apparently, and you've gone this far. We need to sit down and talk about the country. Let the media even cover it. That is a conversation of peers. That's number one. Number two, there is no help coming from the IMF or Washington Consensus. They want to beat the state down. They want the state to retreat so that they can impose their messy structure adjustment programs that never worked anywhere. So think less in terms of what Washington Consensus will give you. What kind of promotion they will give you. It doesn't
look like this government had entered that trap.
I'm saying that it's not too
late
to come out of it. In order to rebalance the liberalism and privatization equally with the social mission of government in a developmental format. That's the second. Seek for help in that direction. Don't go crash on with the taxation, floating the naira, remove all the subsidies, increase tariff on the city. It will not work. 3, look beyond their comfort zones. If you ask me for some names of people I said, not even appointment in government, people should talk to. Part of Tom is an independent thinker. You know him very well. He knows him very well. He's a sound mind in concept, political economy. Seek him out. Jibri, Ibrahim, he's a professor of political science and international relations from Kano somewhere. Seek him out. Chidode Kano has written a lot about the legal system, even though they seem so damning. He's a patriot. Professor Mamadi, these are people who I know. And these are people who are proud to be part of not part of government, part of the conversation about Nigeria. And if the government is serious, open your eyes.
Prof, thank you so much. We're totally out of time, but thank you so much indeed. And I do need to remind the APC that the APC started saying that they were left of the center. PDP started by saying they were the right of the center. It meant that one is more conservative than the other. One says he's a welfareist. But I want to remind the APC tonight, don't forget what you said you are. You said your DNA is welfareism. Show Nigerians
go back to
that you are. Professor Odenta, it's good to see you.
It's a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
What an age.
Patriot that you are.
Thank
you so much indeed. That's our show for tonight, everyone. And thanks for watching. I'm sure Kimale. Bye-bye.